Let's start our story in a place of gray mists and crumbling stone. A tale that's really woven from the fabric of language itself. This is a dark story about a single word and the long shadow it casts.
You know, in Old English, some words weren't just things you said. They were things you felt right in your gut. And grimmin was one of them. It was a verb, sure, one that carried the heavy weight of provocation, but it was also a sound that just tasted of iron and bile.
So our story begins, like all the best Gothic tales, in a place of decay. I want you to picture a desolate manor where the air is just thick with the smell of dying lilies and ancient dust. It's the kind of place where your soul is easily provoked, grimient. So what are we really talking about here? Gremmin is an Old English verb. Its whole reason for being is to describe the act of provoking someone, of vexing them right to their core. This isn't just about being annoyed. It's a deep, really unsettling kind of agitation. And into this gloomy scene walks our main character, Ethelwulf. He's a scholar, a man of books and learning, but his nerves are already stretched thin, which makes him the absolute perfect target for the haunting that's about to unfold.
All right, this is where things get interesting. That abstract idea of vexation starts to take on a terrifying physical form. The haunting really, truly begins. The thing tormenting Ethelwulf isn't your garden variety ghost. No, it's a grim shadow, a creature made of soot with eyes like dying coals. Think of it as the literal embodiment of 11th century anger, and its one and only goal is to grimion his sanity. The attacks start small, but they're maddening. It begins with these tiny interferences. Just as our scholar is trying to work, this creature deliberately blots the ink on his precious manuscripts. It's a small thing, but it's a direct assault on his entire purpose. And the psychological torment just ramps up. Imagine he's right on the edge of a huge breakthrough in his research, and the creature blows out his candle, plunging him into darkness at the exact moment of revelation. This isn't random. It is targeted.
This really captures the effect perfectly. For the Anglo-Saxons, to grimir someone was basically to unleash a swarm of hornets inside their head. Ethelwulf's mind is no longer this quiet place of thought. It's a buzzing hive of frantic, stinging activity. See, the Wild isn't interested in smashing furniture or tearing up books. Its target is way more personal. It's going after Ethelwulf's spirit, his focus, his very composure. And here we are at the story's violent climax. The psychological pressure becomes just unbearable, and Ethelwulf is pushed right to the edge, which leads to a pretty horrifying discovery. Now the attacks get deeply personal. The creature starts whispering to him, and it's using the voices of his own dead ancestors to mock his life's work, twisting his passion into a source of shame and futility. And of course, it works. All of Ethelwulf's scholarly dedication just curdles into one single emotion, a fierce, unmanageable rage that burns hotter than the fire in his own fireplace. He has been completely and successfully grimioned. His inner storm is now reflected by the manor itself. The very air seems to vibrate with his fury. Tapestries shiver on the walls, and the painted eyes of these long-dead lords seem to be joining the creature in its mockery. In this moment, at his absolute peak of agitation, the horrible truth just dawns on him. His struggle, his cursing, his frantic actions, his rage, that's the very thing keeping the creature alive. He realizes it's a parasite of vexation, and his own anger is its food. So, armed with this terrible knowledge, Ethelwulf completely changes his strategy. He knows he can't fight this thing with fire, so he's got to try something else. His trial now enters its final, decisive hour. He just stops. He stops struggling. He sits down in that suffocating silence. And most importantly, he refuses to give the wit the anger it so desperately wants. Instead, he just watches it, not with fear or rage, but with a kind of cold, scientific fascination. And by observing it like this, detached, he finally understands what it really is. It isn't just a monster. It is hostility itself, what the ancients called gram, but made into a living thing. As Ethelwulf's heartbeat slows and his rage cools, the creature starts to weaken. It actually shrinks. Its power just fading away. Because, as it turns out, it simply can't survive in a host that refuses to be provoked.
And so, as our story comes to a close, we can see how this personal, Gothic horror story connects to the long and very strange journey of a word throughout history.
In a way, this entire story serves as a prologue to the real etymology. This creature, this grim shadow, is really just a manifestation of our own internal conflicts, a powerful metaphor for the discord we all carry inside us. I mean, the word's journey is just remarkable. It travels from an ancient Proto-Germanic root for to anger, becomes our 11th century verb of vexation, gremmen, and then, get this, eventually evolves into the 20th century gremlin. You know, the mischievous little imps that World War II pilots blamed for mechanical failures. The form changes completely, but that core idea of an external force of agitation, it stays the same. As the sun comes up, Ethelwulf leaves the manor, and the white dissolves into the morning mist behind him. The story leaves us with this essential Gothic truth. The things that haunt us the most are the very provocations we give our energy to, the ones we simply refuse to let go of. Which, of course, brings us to the final, lingering question for ourselves. Ethelwulf learned to starve his shadow by simply withdrawing his anger. So it's worth asking, what vexations, what little whites are we feeding in our own lives? What gremlins are you keeping alive?